Let's get started with our first news. Aljamain Sterling recently shared a story about an encounter he had with Jon Jones at a bar that changed his mindset on fighting. Jon offered Aljo a drink, but Aljo declined because he had a fight booked in just 5 weeks. You remember I told the story about the Jon Jones meetup at the bar. I went to school with him during my freshman year, and he was in his sophomore year before he became a UFC fighter. Back then, fighting wasn't even a thought for either of us. We partied a lot and everything seemed normal. Then Jon dropped out and I transferred. After that, I saw all his videos and pictures of him doing well in the cage. Grappling, fighting, knocking people out, submitting them. I thought, yo bro, I want to try this. I meet him again and I'm thinking, I've got to live the life of a monk. I've got to be super disciplined. I thought this is what Jon Jones is doing. That's why he's killing these guys. It's all about the mental side, the sacrifice, and the dedication. But then I see him at the bar, maybe 2 or 3 fights into his UFC career, and he's probably got a fight coming up the next week. And there he is, getting smashed, drinking, and having a good time. Jon offers me a drink and I'm like, no, I've got a fight in 5 weeks. He looks at me and says, wait, you're fighting like you're fighting tomorrow, bro. I'm confused. What the hell is happening right now? This encounter completely changed my mindset. I used to think I had to give up everything in life that I enjoyed to train. I thought I had to be super disciplined and the sacrifice was the most important thing. But Jon's attitude made me realize something. I was sacrificing things that made my training enjoyable, thinking it was all about giving up pleasures. But in reality, it's not just about sacrifices. It came down to the mental side of it. If you believe that one drink or a couple of nights out 2.5 weeks before a fight will ruin your entire training camp, then maybe you didn't prepare enough. That moment taught me that the mental side of fighting is the most important. You have to be in the right state of mind. So now I can never knock anyone who has a different approach. It's not just about the physical sacrifices. It's about mental preparation and how you handle the pressure of competition. We all have different ways of handling that, but in the end, it's the mental aspect that truly counts. Let's move on to another piece of news. Kamaru Usman compares Belal Muhammad's trash talk to Colby Covington's. Usman says it's not very Muslim, but I mean, is that too low? Is Belal Muhammad going a little too low, bro? On that, especially, he's a Muslim guy. I don't think that's too much. I don't think that's, very Muslim. I don't think we care about that, So it is what it is. Like you've said before, this is a guy who really is, for as much as you say you don't like Covington, for what Covington did to get to the top of the division and how he talks to people. You're not far from it right now. And I think a lot of fans see that and a lot of fans understand that as well. It's interesting because when we look at the trash talk and the way it's done, there are some lines that get crossed and then there are others where the trash talk is part of the game. Covington's trash talk was always personal, right? It wasn't just about hyping the fight, it was designed to make his opponents uncomfortable. But in a way, it worked. It's a method he used to get into people's heads, and it definitely helped him make a name for himself in the UFC. And now, we see a similar pattern with Belal Muhammad. His trash talk, while it may not be exactly the same as Covington's, is starting to stir things up. He's starting to use the same tactics to get noticed and to push for bigger fights. The question now is he taking it too far? Usman pointed out that in a way, Belal is starting to act just like Covington, and whether you like it or not, that's what gets you noticed in this sport. Covington has proven that trash talk can get you to the top, and it looks like Belal is following a similar path, but it's definitely dividing fans. Some like it, some don't. Some are saying Belal is taking it too far, while others are saying he's just playing the game. Regardless of where you stand, one thing is clear, Belal Muhammad is making waves in the UFC. Whether you like his style or not, he's definitely getting the attention of fans, and that's exactly what you need if you want to climb the ranks and get those big fights. And as Usman pointed out, the fans see it too. The question remains, will it pay off for Belal in the long run? Only time will tell, but for now, he's got the spotlight. Now moving on to another shocking story that's got the entire MMA world buzzing. Did the UFC accidentally leak Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira? During the UFC Vegas 105 broadcast, something very strange and possibly revealing happened. A message popped up on the screen that appeared to confirm a future matchup between Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira. The on-screen graphic read, "Ilia moves up in weight class and faces Charles Oliveira." Immediately, fans watching the Spanish language stream took notice. Was this just a miscommunication, a translation error, or was it something much bigger? Well, the UFC was quick to respond, saying it was nothing more more than a mistake. But let's be honest, a lot of fans aren't buying it. Many are convinced that this wasn't just a random accident. Some believe it was a deliberate leak, a way for the UFC to test public interest in a Topuria versus Oliveira matchup before making it official. One fan wrote, "You've got to genuinely wonder how they make these mistakes." This was meant to be posted next weekend, once the belt is officially vacant. Then they'd announce the fight. Another commented, "Come on, man, you know this to be true." And honestly, this wouldn't be the first time the UFC pulled off something like this. Fans are calling this a bold, clever, and obviously strategic move. A classic Dana White-style tactic to stir the hype and get people talking before the official announcement. So what does this mean for the featherweight and lightweight divisions? Right now, Ilia Topuria is sitting at the top after his dominant win over Alexander Volkanovski. But with Volk taking time off and possibly moving down the rankings, Topuria might be ready to move and chase legacy. On the other hand, Charles Oliveira is a former champion, still ranked highly, and always looking for a big name fight. A clash between these two could shake up the entire lightweight division. Meanwhile, on the welterweight side of things, Belal Muhammad is officially set to defend his new welterweight title against rising star Jack Della Maddalena next month. According to reports, Islam Makhachev is watching that fight very closely. If JDM pulls off the upset, Islam may finally make his long-awaited jump to welterweight. All of this adds fuel to the fire and makes Topuria versus Oliveira feel not only possible, but inevitable. Stay tuned, because this might have been a mistake, but it could just be the UFC's next big move. And now, Islam Makhachev's manager shuts down the rumor. Islam Makhachev. Recently, rumors began swirling that Islam was holding off on announcing his next fight, waiting to see how things unfold in the upcoming Belal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena title clash at UFC 315. But now, Islam's own manager has stepped in, and he's shutting the whole thing down. Here's how it all started. MMA reporter Aloro Canero stirred the pot on social media, stating, "Sources told me Makhachev is planted and will wait until May 10th to see what happens between Muhammad and JDM." This immediately had fans wondering if Islam's participation in International Fight Week was in jeopardy. Would the champ actually delay his return based on the outcome of a welterweight title fight? Let's break it down. Islam has made it clear in the past he's interested in moving up to welterweight and potentially becoming a double champ. But there's one big problem. His longtime friend and training partner, Belal Muhammad, currently holds that belt. Islam has openly stated that he refuses to fight Belal out of respect and loyalty. So naturally, if Jack Della Maddalena pulls off an upset and takes the title at UFC 315, it opens the door for Islam to move up and chase that second belt at 170. The pieces seem to fit, but then came the curveball. Islam's manager, the always outspoken Ali Abdelaziz, quickly responded to the report, and he wasn't happy. He jumped on social media and labeled the entire story as fake news. Ali fired back hard, essentially denying that Islam is stalling his return or basing his plans on what happens in the welterweight division. So what's the truth here? Was this all a misunderstanding, or is Ali just trying to throw fans off the trail? Some believe this is all part of a clever smokescreen. Maybe Islam is quietly hoping that Belal loses so he can move up without the awkward drama of turning down a division switch due to friendship. Or maybe we'll be getting an official lightweight title defense announcement from Islam very soon. After all, his last fight was a dominant submission win over Renato Moicano in January. And with the UFC locking in its summer headliners as we speak, it's only a matter of time. Stay tuned. Speaking of chaos, the MMA community is furious with Conor McGregor for promoting a crypto coin. Yes, Conor McGregor is back in the headlines. But once again, it's not because he's stepping back into the octagon. And honestly, at this point, a lot of fans have given up hope that we'll ever see the Irish superstar fight again. Still, millions continue to follow his every move, hoping for something big. But this time, it's not a fight announcement. It's something far stranger. Recently, Conor made waves when he declared his intention to run for president of Ireland, a move that triggered more eye rolls than applause. And just when you thought the McGregor headlines couldn't get weirder, here comes the crypto. On social media, McGregor posted, "I changed the fight game, I changed the whiskey game, I changed the stout game. Now it's time to change the CRYPTO game. This is just the beginning. This is real at Get Real Token." That's right, Conor McGregor has officially entered the world of crypto coins. But instead of excitement, the reaction was swift and merciless. Many fans immediately began calling it out as a scam. One user wrote, "Making a $600 million deal with your liquor brand, only to turn around and sell out your fan base with a scam coin. This is hilarious and sad. Another added, "I used to believe in you, man. Thought you'd take over the UFC and be loved forever, but now you're just like everyone else. Crypto grifting. The backlash was brutal. You gonna rug or what, bro?" one person asked, referring to crypto scams where developers disappear with investors' money. Another fan posted, "Oh no, this is not going to end well. Celebrities in this space never work. This is gonna crash hard." Some fans even questioned McGregor's finances. "Money must be getting tight if you're shilling this nonsense," one commented. Another wrote, "Get real and get back to what you're really good at, fighting and entertaining, not this scam coin garbage." A few fans desperately clung to hope. "No way, he's been hacked. Please tell me this isn't real." But most weren't buying it. They're convinced this is just another celebrity pump and dump. "Has Conor really fallen this far?" one fan asked. "He's pulling a Dennis. Same scam, different coin. It's embarrassing. Only time will tell if this was just a bad business move or something far worse. But one thing's for sure, the MMA community is not impressed." Now let's shift back to fight talk. Islam Makhachev at 170, Topuria versus Gaethje. Luke Thomas weighs in. Recently, Luke Thomas weighed in on a potential scenario that could significantly alter the UFC landscape, particularly in the lightweight and welterweight divisions. It all revolves around the potential outcome of Belal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena at UFC 315. If Jack Della Maddalena wins, it opens the door for Islam Makhachev to move up to the 170-pound division, and that shift could have far-reaching consequences for the lightweight title. Luke pointed out that if Makhachev makes the move to welterweight, the UFC might decide to create an interim lightweight title fight, and that fight could very well be Justin Gaethje versus Ilia Topuria. He explained, if this happens, Ilia might be positioned for a massive opportunity at lightweight. His decision to move up from featherweight would suddenly make sense. Instead of being criticized for vacating his belt, he'd be celebrated for seizing a bigger chance. For Ilia Topuria, this could be the perfect chance to solidify his place in UFC history. If he were to face Gaethje in an interim lightweight title fight and win, Topuria would become the lightweight champion, which would completely change the narrative surrounding him. Rather than being labeled as a fighter who abandoned his featherweight belt, he would be seen as someone who made a strategic and calculated move that paid off in the end. Luke also mentioned that while many fans are rooting for Belal Muhammad to win so that Islam Makhachev stays at lightweight for a dream fight against Ilia Topuria, the outcome of the JDM versus Belal fight could set the stage for something much bigger. If Della Maddalena wins, it might push Islam to welterweight, and the UFC could make Gaethje versus Topuria for the interim title, or even the full lightweight title. That would change everything. This brings us back to the earlier accidental leak about a potential matchup between Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira. Many fans and analysts have speculated that it was more than just a mistake, and now, with these potential fight scenarios unfolding, it could very well have been a strategic move to stir the pot. Luke further added that Ilia's time in the sport may not be as long as some think. "I don't get the vibe he'll be doing this at 36, he said, referencing how Topuria's career trajectory might mirror Conor McGregor's path, but without all the controversies. Whether or not Ilia moves up and takes the opportunity to challenge for the lightweight title, the shift in divisions could ignite a dramatic reshaping of the top-tier fighters in the UFC. Fans and analysts alike will be watching closely to see how it all unfolds. And Dana White entered a $10 million Baccarat tournament. That's right, Dana White, the legendary president of the UFC, recently took part in one of the most exclusive high-stakes Baccarat tournaments in Las Vegas. The prize pool? An insane $10 million. Only the elite are invited to something like this, and Dana was front and center, ready to roll the dice, quite literally. He gave fans an inside look at where he was staying, the ultra-luxurious mansions at the MGM Grand, and this place was nothing short of jaw-dropping. "Alright, I'm here at the mansions at the MGM," Dana said in a video tour. "I'm playing in this $10 million Baccarat tournament they have today." He then proceeded to walk through the suite, showing off the insane luxury. "This is the room here, this is the pool, and look how big this freaking room is." And he wasn't kidding, the suite was massive. "There's a gym down there. This is one of the bedrooms over here. They've got a game room in here, pool table, another bedroom here, Look how big the bathrooms are too. You basically have the whole floor. The elevator comes right into the room. Dana didn't stop there. He continued showing off the place like a proud real estate agent, flexing the elevator, the brain shop, a fancy dining area, a full-blown movie room, and even a kid's bedroom. This wasn't just a suite. This was a mansion in every sense of the word. Then, with the usual Dana White confidence, he looked at the camera and said, "Here we go. Let's win this thing." But things didn't go quite as planned. A few hours later, Dana returned with an update. "What's up, everybody? So I played in the Baccarat tournament at the MGM Mansions. I lost. I'm out. I'm a loser." But then with a smile, he added, "But you're not." Dana showed off the incredible gifts all players received just for attending. That's a $1,000 bill from like 1934, and this is 1.5 ounces of gold. And here's the kicker, Dana's giving it away. 2 of you will have the opportunity to win this. I haven't figured out how I'm going to do it yet, but stay tuned. So even though Dana didn't take home the W, he's still sharing the gold, literally. Finally, Daniel Cormier nearly gets into a fight with a heavyweight coach. That's right, the former 2-division UFC champion Daniel Cormier recently shared the details of a tense and heated altercation that nearly escalated into something physical. It all went down at a tournament in Clovis, where the atmosphere quickly turned intense, and Cormier almost found himself in a confrontation with a heavyweight coach. On a recent episode of his podcast, Good Guy, Bad Guy, DC opened up about the incident. "It's happened to me quite a bit recently," he began, referencing how things had become increasingly tense at various events. "I was at a tournament in Clovis. One of the coaches went into the wrestling room, saw the boys, and got mad. He threw them out. Naturally, Cormier, being the level-headed and experienced competitor he is, approached the coach to get to the bottom of what happened. 'Hey man, what happened?' DC asked calmly, trying to de-escalate the situation. But instead of a reasonable response, the coach became even more aggressive. 'This dude's big,' Cormier recalled. 'He's gotta be 300 pounds, and he wants to beat me up. I don't even know him.' What followed next was a classic confrontation as the two walked between the gyms. The coach, clearly agitated, approached DC again and shouted, 'This dude keeps staring at me.' At that point, Cormier said he completely lost his cool. 'I lost it,' he admitted. In a heated exchange, Cormier stared the coach down and stood his ground. We came together at the door and I said, everybody wants to be a tough guy until you have to do real tough guy stuff. Cormier leaned in, visibly pissed, and delivered a cutting line. 'You're only acting like this because you know I can't do to you what I want to do.' The coach's response only fueled the tension. 'Well, you're gonna try.' But Cormier wasn't backing down. It was at this point that DC made a striking realization. He said, 'You're going to try to be jail.' That's when I thought, this guy must be a cop. The only reason he'd treat me this way is if he knows I can't lay hands on him. Nestor what? What an insane sequence of events. The situation escalated quickly, but as is often the case with Cormier, it was all handled without turning into a full-blown fight. Tensions boiling over outside the octagon. This wasn't the kind of chaos fans usually see in the cage, but it still showed just how intense things can get when personalities collide. It's a reminder that even legends like DC aren't afraid to stand up for themselves, especially when tempers flare.